Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're going to wait a few minutes to allow some more participants to show up, and then we'll start. Thank you. Thank you for waiting, and thank you for being here. We're just going to allow a few more minutes to make sure everybody that wants to be here is logged in. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're just going to wait one more minute to make sure everybody that is trying to log in can get in. Okay, everyone, it's 6:05, so I think we're going to start. If there's any questions, you can type them in the chat, and if we have time at the end of each section, we might be able to do a little discussion as well. So we're going to start. So my name is Angie, and I am with the County of Santa Clara, and I'm going to talk to you today about emergency rental assistance and the isolation and quarantine support program. So we're going to talk about emergency programs available for renters. What do you need to apply, eviction, know your rights, and how to start the application process. So the two programs that we're going to talk about, the first one is the State of California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program, which is what the county is helping with application assistance. So the county is helping residents submit their application to the State of California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program, just to make sure, that they understand what they're submitting and that they're submitting, the documents that we understand are needed for the program. So for the California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program, the rental assistance is available dating back to April 2020. There's a maximum of 12 months of past due rent and 3 months of future rent that can be made if the applicant qualifies for 100% of the assistance available. So the state can also assist with up to 100% of some utility bills, including internet, and it's a maximum of 12 months of utilities that can be paid. The second program is the Isolation and Quarantine Support Program, and this program assists individuals who tested positive for COVID-19 in the last 90 days. This program provides financial assistance, food, and hotel room, and/or hotel room. So just for your reference, these services are per household. So the definition of a household for purposes of these programs, the family or the individuals live in a home. It can be that same address, 2 or more families, but each household pays for their expenses separately. So let's say it's a mom, dad, and a baby, and that mom, dad, and a baby are responsible for their part of the rent, their part of the electricity bill, they buy their own groceries, they have their own meals, things like that. Another family, that lives at that same address, same thing, they pay for their part of the rent, their part of the bills, they buy their own groceries. And maybe there's an individual that rents a room and they pay their part of the rent, pay their part of the bills, and they have their own groceries and expenses. So that's the definition of a household for purposes of these programs. You can live at the same address, but if you're separate households that are responsible for your own expenses, and as long as you're over 18, so it can't be like a 16-year-old where their parents maybe charge them rent. It has to be an adult. Then you would be your own household. And each family applying for assistance must meet all the eligibility requirements of whatever program they're applying for. So one of the biggest questions that we get for any of these programs is the impact to immigration status. What is public charge? So the Department of Immigration assesses individuals who are in the process of immigration to determine if they have been a public or financial burden to the government. This is only done in 3 instances. The 3 instances, just for your reference, are when someone first enters the United States, the first time they get permanent residency, and if they leave the US for more than 180 days without permission. So permanent residents do not have the right to leave the US for more than 180 days without permission from the federal government. So that's kind of just the information that we have available regarding the 3 instances when public charge is assessed. And only 2 programs fall under the public charge definition. The first program is cash aid, like supplemental security income, temporary assistance for needy families, or TANF, and a US citizen child's receipt of these benefits does not impact the immigrant parent. And the second time is government funded long-term care. And there's a lot of misinformation on this topic because we have moved between 2 extremes on this issue in the last 5 years. But you should definitely refer to the public charge section of the USCIS website if you would like more information. And because the current pandemic is considered a state of emergency, immigration has published the following: assistance related to the pandemic is not considered public charge, and requesting emergency rental assistance is not considered public charge. Of course, these are all just snippets of information that we've gotten from the USCIS website, but if you do have any specific situations, you should always consult your immigration attorney or a professional immigration attorney for any specific immigration issues related to your personal situation. So the first program that we're going to talk about is the California COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And again, this is the state of California that's offering the rental assistance program that I'm going to talk about right now. So the California COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program is available for renters if you've been impacted by COVID-19, by the pandemic in general, are income eligible. And so the state will calculate this when you apply, but there's other ways to confirm that your household is income eligible. And if you have unpaid rent or utilities or need help with future rent or utilities, you may apply for the California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program. So this is just a overview. It is a lot of information here, but this is an overview of the state program. It could provide up to 12 months of past due rent and 3 months of future rent. It's not counted as income for renters. So you, as a tenant, as a renter, you don't have to report this assistance on your taxes. Utility bills can be included if the bill is in the name of a person on the application. So any adult listed in the household that's part of the application, the bill can be in their name. It doesn't have to be in the primary applicant's name to include in the application. The internet can be included, an internet bill can be included, cable cannot be included, and PG&E or your electrical bill can be included, gas, trash, sewer. If those are all paid separately, then you can include those separate bills in the state application. The water bill cannot be included as a standalone bill. So if you pay a separate bill to the water company, the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program from the California Water Boards was implemented and is available for delinquent water bills. So if you want to take a screenshot of this screen, you can find more information about the program if you visit waterboards.ca.gov, and it's the Arrearage Payment Program. So that's if you have like a separate standalone water bill. But if the water charge is included with any other type of utility as part of the rent, if the water bill is part of your rent, basically, then it could potentially be added to the application so long as it's explicitly stated in your lease. And the state application will ask for information regarding household members, birth dates, and IDs. The IDs are required for the adults in the household, but not for minors. And the application will ask for rent amounts paid. So like whatever's on your lease, if you have, a recent notice that your rents just increased, if you have rent receipts, things like that. You will be asked to provide the landlord's information. So the landlord's name or the property management company, the address, mailing address, their phone number, and their email address. And you will be asked to provide supporting paperwork for certain sections of the application. So for eligibility requirements, so you have to have a financial hardship due to COVID-19. So there is a screen on the application that basically asks you how you were affected by the pandemic, by COVID-19. So it's not that you had to test positive for COVID, but were you laid off? Were your hours cut? If you're self-employed, maybe your available work was affected. You had to stay home with the kids because the kids couldn't go to school. You had to, sign up for other programs because, something shut down because of the pandemic, things like that. So those are all general reasons why you would have been affected by the pandemic, but there's definitely more information on the application to kind of specify different situations. And if you have a unique situation, there's also a section on the application where you can, kind of explain in a sentence or two how you were affected by the pandemic. If you are at risk of homelessness or housing instability, so proof of past due rent would be something that could show risk of homelessness or housing instability. Your income is below 80% of the area median income. You will need an email address, and you will create an account on the state website. The password must include 12 characters, 1 uppercase and lowercase, a number, and a special character. And so this is just the income eligibility to give you an idea for Santa Clara County. So low-income households are less than 80% area median income. So this is calculated by taking the total income of your household. So it would be each person living in the home and responsible for the expenses, including children. So let's say it's, mom and dad and their adult son and their minor son. So the income that would count would be mom's income, dad's income, and the adult son's income would be what we would count for your income for the household. So the minor child, their income, if they were working, wouldn't count towards the household income. So like a household of 1, 80% of the area median income for Santa Clara County is $82,450 per year. And the median income, just for your reference, for Santa Clara County for a household of one is $127,100. So that's kind of the information there. And so it looks like we have a question, but we're just going to get to the end of this section and then we'll answer the question, okay? And so this is just an idea, but there is this information is also available on the state website when you're submitting your application. And you know, the state will help you calculate your income to make sure that you're not over the area median income as well. And so in addition, this is what the state has informed us of their application processing, and the payments are not issued on a first come first served basis. The most vulnerable tenants will get paid first. Tenants whose family income is very low, tenants who received a 3-day notice or an unlawful detainer summons. So households that are at risk of eviction, households that fall far below the 80% area median income. So they're like maybe in the 30% threshold, 50% threshold. Those are generally being processed more quickly. So unfortunately, the state has said that they're not processing applications on a first come first serve. They're kind of sorting them by income, household income, and things like that. So this is just a list of documents that are needed to apply for the emergency rental assistance through the state of California. So you need a government issued ID, you need to verify your residence, so an address verification, something that would arrive with your name and your current address in the mail to you. The primary applicant would need an email address. You do need some kind of verification of rent owed, primarily speaking, if you have a lease agreement, you know, rent receipts for the most recent rent paid, things like that are the best types of verifications. But obviously, if you have something different, you can submit everything you have just to kind of show that you've been paying X amount of rent. So verification of income, the state will allow a tax return from 2020 if you have your W-2s from 2020, like, or your 1099-G if you received unemployment. If you're currently working and you get paid with a paycheck, then your 2 recent pay stubs. If you are participating in a federal or state subsidy program such as CalFresh or CalWorks, they'll take your most recent renewal letter notice. If you're paid in cash, if you have 0 income or you have no proof of income, you can still apply. The application will allow you to attest to your cash or 0 income within the application. And if you're asking for help with utilities, you'll need to provide past due statements of utility bills, like your electric bill, your garbage bill, your internet bill, dated after April 1st, 2020. So if you have several bills that you want to include, several types of utilities, get your most recent bill ready. And then if the state wants more information, or if you owe several months, then try to get, you know, the 3 months that you owe, get the statement for each of those months. But for sure, your most recent bill, so that they can see, you know, what you currently owe. And so this is some information for landlords. If the renters take steps to verify that they meet eligibility requirements and sign the application, the landlord will be notified once the application is submitted, and the landlord will be asked to submit their required informations. All payments received by the landlord must be used to satisfy the renter's unpaid rent. The eligible timeframe for financial assistance dates starting April 1st, 2020. So if a tenant owes rent from any date before April 1st, 2020, that's a separate situation. The rent owed for the purposes of this program needs to be for dates after April 1st, 2020. If the landlord agrees to participate in the program, the payment will be made directly to the landlord on behalf of the eligible household. If the landlord refuses to participate, payment will be made directly to the renter, and the renter will be agreeing to receive those funds with the condition that they will be using that to pay the rent owed as listed on the application. And the utilities are only paid directly to the utility company. So if utilities are included in the application, the state will not give the applicant the money for those bills. The state will pay the utilities directly to the utility company. So these are just a few more details from, based on our experience with application assistance. So it's important for the tenant, the client, the applicant to gather the following information to assist in smoother application processing. Make sure you get your landlord's information, the name, the address, the phone number, and the email address. That's very important. It's something that the state is constantly asking for, is the current landlord contact information. Regarding any sublease situations or when a tenant rents a room, the recommendation is to provide as much information as possible. So, obviously in a perfect world, we would all have a legal lease agreement and we'd have rent receipts and we'd have, transaction history. But if that's not possible, let's say you have a verbal agreement with somebody, you pay them cash, the master tenant would be listed as the landlord on the application. And so the master tenant is the person whose name appears on the lease. They're the person that you pay your rent to. And if no formal documented sublease agreement exists, then the master tenant would provide a written statement documenting basic info. So let's pretend John Smith is the master tenant, Jane Doe is the person renting a room. So John Smith would write a letter for Jane Doe saying, I, John Smith, rent a room to Jane Doe at 123 Main Street, San Jose, California, 91234. Jane Doe pays $100 per month in cash for rent and utilities and currently owes October 2021 $100, November 2021 $100, December 2021 $100. Signed, John Smith, with John Smith's current phone number and current email address. So that is something that the master tenant would potentially be able to write for their tenant that's renting a room, because the tenant is not listed on the lease, but they are living at this place and they are requesting assistance paying their rent. So these are just some expectations that we've learned as we've been helping clients apply with the state for rental assistance. There's no information requested regarding criminal history. There's no information regarding citizenship or immigration status. Regarding cash or zero income, this can be attested in the application if there's no documentation to verify income. Once applications are submitted, applicants may monitor the status of their application by logging into their state application account or by calling a program representative at 833-430-2122. They're available between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. 7 days a week. Just a heads up, if you do call, make sure you allow at least 30 minutes to possibly an hour to be on hold and to have to be talking to the representative. Just keeping in mind that the entire state of California is submitting applications to this program. So there is a bit of a wait when you do call, but sometimes that is the only way to kind of get some clarification on your application situation. Applicants will be automatically contacted by a program representative once their application is reviewed. Currently, it's about 6 to 8 weeks for the application to be assigned and reviewed. Or if the application is found to be missing required documentation, the program representative will reach out to you. So check your spam, check your email, check your junk mail, and log in. We recommend that you log in every 2 weeks for updates on your state application. When you log in, you should be able to see on the state website the California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program. When you log in, you should be able to see the status of your application, and if there's any pending tasks or documents that are required from the state, you should be able to see them when you log in. You can apply only for the assistance that you're responsible for. So if you're only renting a room, you can provide a letter explaining the circumstances, but you should only be applying for your rent that you owe. So if you live with a roommate and you're both on the lease and you pay $500 and the roommate pays $500, but you don't want to apply together, or your roommate's like, I'm fine, I don't need to apply, but you need to apply for your part of the rent, then you would submit the application with a copy of your lease agreement, with a copy of your income or whatever your situation is, and you would only request the $500 per month of rent that you owe, because that's all you are responsible for. So that's just something to give everybody a heads up. If you have roommates and you're only paying $500 a month, but you log into the state application and you request $3,000 a month, the state is going to verify or ask you for more information regarding, the other people on the lease. Why are you asking for this much if, there's 6 other people on your lease agreement, things like that. So that's just an idea of what the expectations are for the emergency rental assistance provided by the state of California. That is the end of this section, but there was a question from an attendee here. What if you submitted 2 applications, but with different rent due dates? So the question, let me just make sure I'm understanding correctly. So if you submitted an application to the California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program, but you did 2 different rent due dates. So the state of California is verifying addresses on the application. So let's say you submitted an application and you said, I live at 123 Main Street, San Jose, California, 95123, and I owe $1,000 a month in rent. So the state of California received that application for 123 Main Street. And if they receive another application for the same address, they're going to start reviewing like what the household situation is, who's reporting what the lease agreement looks like, things like that. So if one household submitted 2 applications, they are going to cancel one of them. They'll probably reach out to the client that submitted the application, but they will also, they're only allowing 1 application per household. So if you submitted 1 application and maybe you put some incorrect information, instead of submitting a second application, the recommendation from the state is that you call the state, you have them reopen your application, you make the corrections on the existing application, and then you resubmit it with the corrections instead of submitting a second application. And does it go towards your rental history so future renting will be tough? So if you do apply for the California COVID-19 rental relief program and you are approved, none of this is reported on your credit history. None of it is reported to any kind of rental bureau or anything like that. I would say that you should definitely keep track of, all your documents related to, what the situation is. What months you got assistance for and things like that, just so that you and your landlord are on the same page that everything that you owed was paid, because your landlord might be your reference if you were to move somewhere else, and you want to make sure that you and your landlord are on the same page as far as what months were owed and what months were paid by the state program, things like that. And I definitely would say that we are in a pandemic, which is an unprecedented time, and the whole world is living in this pandemic. So hopefully, if you are to, try to rent somewhere else in the future, people understand that, everybody went through a tough time during this this pandemic. So hopefully that also helps, with people. That's just my own opinion, but and there's another question that says, do you have to owe the rent utility to qualify? What about we're struggling to pay future rent? So you don't have to owe past due rent. If you're caught up with your rent through February, you can apply for future rent. You can apply for up to 3 months of future rent. Right now, the last time I looked at the state application, they're accepting applications for March 2022. So if you have not paid March 2022, that is a future month that you can apply for. I do know that the state application, as well as all the legislation, all the eviction protections and things like that, are constantly being in review. So if they're able to allow additional future months, then you can apply. If the state opens up additional future months, then you would be able to apply for more than just March. But right now, if you wanted to apply for future months, it looks like March 2022 is the current month that's available, and you can always apply for that month, and kind of hopefully that helps get caught up in the meantime while they decide what they're going to do with the rest of the months. So we'll just wait a little while here just in case there's an extra question regarding the emergency rental assistance. So again, this is the State of California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program. The county is offering some assistance submitting the application, but it is through the state program. So another question is, if you already paid the rent, nothing can be done. So the state of California is currently only paying actual rent that is owed. So if you and your landlord are confirming that you owe, the last 3 months or things like that, then that is the rent that is going to be paid directly to the landlord. I know a lot of people have, borrowed money from family and friends. Maybe they use their credit card, things like that. So unfortunately, the state of California COVID-19 rent relief program at this time is not able to pay back like loans or things like that. It's only to pay rent that's actually owed. So we'll talk about the Santa Clara County Isolation and Quarantine Support Program, but if you have any questions about the emergency rental assistance, feel free to put them in the chat or ask the questions in the Q&A, and then we'll get to them once we get through the next part. So the Santa Clara County Isolation and Quarantine Support Program is through the County of Santa Clara directly. And it's basically to assist individuals who have had a COVID-19 positive test or have been exposed to someone who had a COVID-19 positive test and were required to isolate or quarantine because of COVID-19. So the program offers one-time help with financial assistance, food delivery, supplies, and possibly hotel room if needed. So the isolation and quarantine eligibility criteria, you have to show loss of income due to COVID-19 or COVID-19 exposure. You should be a resident of Santa Clara County and in a participating city, and your total household income should be at or below 80% area median income. So this is just a list of the participating cities as of right now. Basically what it means is that if you live in an unincorporated part of Santa Clara County, Los Altos Hills, Milpitas, Morgan Hill, and Saratoga, those cities and unincorporated Santa Clara County are eligible for hotel services, rental assistance, financial assistance, groceries, and cleaning and hygiene products. The rest of the cities in Santa Clara County, Mountain View, Campbell, Cupertino, Gilroy, Los Gatos, Monte Sereno, Palo Alto, Santa Clara, and Sunnyvale are currently only participating in the hotel placement services. And then each city has their own services available for their residents for the other parts of the program. And so for the financial assistance program, so the financial assistance is $2,000 if one adult lost income due to being in quarantine or isolation, and it's $2,500 if 2 or more adults in the household lost income due to being in quarantine or isolation. The client can use the funds towards whatever needs they deem appropriate. And basically, once the financial assistance is approved, it's just sent out to that household, and they don't have to show us receipts. They don't have to pay it back. It's not a loan. It's just financial assistance that's granted to that household so that they can isolate or quarantine and not have to worry about the days of work that they missed and they weren't paid for. So the required documents to receive financial assistance through the isolation and quarantine support program is identification. So any adult that is claiming to have lost income due to quarantine or isolation, we need a copy of their ID. If their ID shows the current address, then that is their proof of address. But if the ID shows a different address, then we do need to have some kind of proof of address, like a bill, some kind of document that would arrive to the client with their name and current address. And a self-certification document would be completed, which is sent out through DocuSign, and it would include the client's signature and date. And so that's usually all that's needed. There's some other requirements if there's, like a home test, or if there's, somebody that needed to stay out longer than the normal isolation and quarantine period, things like that. But we would go over the isolation and quarantine program would go over the requirements based on your situation. So the expectations, and it could be a little bit different. Just right now, we're coming off of a little bit of a rush of COVID positive cases, but an IQ coordinator will get back to the client. There are generally 3 call attempts before closing the case, and the client usually receives assistance within 7 to 10 days from completing their documentation. It is a little bit behind right now, but usually that's the goal, is to get the assistance within 7 to 10 days, the financial assistance. So for the isolation and quarantine support program, do you need a social security number or an ITIN to apply? And the answer is no, we do not need either of those things. That is not a question that anybody should ask if you're asking for isolation and quarantine support services. Another question is, can I receive assistance from the isolation and quarantine program and help with rent from the California COVID-19 program? And the answer is yes, if you have not received assistance for that same month. So if you need assistance paying your rent and you also need financial assistance for the time you were in isolation and quarantine, you can request assistance from the IQ program, and you would request your rental assistance through the state of California COVID-19 rent relief program separately. And another question that we get is, if I do not qualify for the isolation and quarantine program, could I qualify for the California COVID-19 emergency rental assistance program? And the answer is yes. So the isolation and quarantine program is for people that tested positive or were exposed to COVID-19 within the last 90 days, and as a result had to isolate or quarantine due to that positive test or COVID exposure. But the California COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program is for people affected by the pandemic in general. So they didn't have to have COVID, but the household was financially impacted by the pandemic since April 1st, 2020. So that's one of your qualifications for the California COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program. So before we get into the rights for California renters, there was a couple of questions. So one question is, for a family of 4, 2 adults and 2 minors, only 1 adult makes money. Should we consider $94,200 as low income? So if it's a household of 4, 80% area median income is $117,750. So for a household of 4, 94,200 is below the 80% area median income. So as far as income goes, a household of 4 making 94,200 would be eligible based on their income. And then we have another question. Do you need to show proof of income? So for the isolation and quarantine support program, you don't always have to show proof of income unless there's any kind of question, like maybe you're on the border of 80% area median income, like, just to make sure that your household's not over the limit, or if maybe you have some sick time on your pay stub, but you don't have enough sick time. So maybe we just want to confirm that you don't have your full, you don't have like 300 hours of sick time on your pay stub and you were out of work for 5 days because of COVID. If your work paid you for your time off work, then you didn't lose income. And so, that's just sometimes a reason why the program might ask for your paycheck stub. So hopefully that answered your questions. So this is just a slide regarding new rights for California renters. So if you do have any questions about rights for renters, you might want to take a screenshot of this. This is just regarding the different laws that went into effect starting January 1st, 2020. And there is some information for the Law Foundation in number 5 there. If you need help, contact the Law Foundation to learn more. And if you have questions or if you have any kind of legal issues related to eviction, the Law Foundation is generally very helpful in providing free or low-cost services. They are also impacted right now because there's a lot of people having, unfortunately having housing issues. So you would call them or go online and leave your information so that they could give you a call back. So there's another question. What if what if you were exposed to COVID and were homesick from COVID and don't have any income, can you apply? So the isolation and quarantine support program is for, so if you're currently actively in quarantine or isolation because you currently have COVID, the program can help you with groceries so that you don't have to leave your house while you're in isolation or quarantine. They could send you groceries. And the financial assistance is if you lost income. So if you were working, you were going to work, and then you tested positive or you were exposed, so you had to isolate or quarantine, and your work says, okay, well, don't come in until, you do your isolation or your quarantine. And so then, you do your isolation, you do your quarantine, you feel better, or you never tested positive, you go back to work and your employer says, you know what, you don't have sick time, you don't have vacation time, we can't pay you for your time off work. So you went those 5, possibly 10 days home, but you weren't paid. So the isolation and quarantine support program is to kind of help make up for the money that you would have earned if you had gone to work. So that also applies to maybe like somebody that's cleans houses. They clean houses, and because they tested positive, they weren't able to go clean houses, and so they're paid cash. They don't have sick time, they don't have vacation time. So like somebody like that wasn't able to go, clean houses or do their their cash job because of testing positive for COVID. So that would be like a loss of income. But that's a good question. So this is just another slide about how emergency rental assistance can help stop evictions. So if the court should not issue summons if the tenant submits a completed application for rental assistance within 20 days of receiving the 3-day notice. At any point before lockout, tenants should be able to stop an eviction if they submit verification to the court that their application for rental assistance has been approved. Tenants may need help with expedited approvals, but no need for expedited payments. So what this just means is that if you have received an eviction notice, if your case is already in the court, if you have proof that your application has been approved, then that should be enough to help stop the eviction. And once the application is approved, then it's just going to be sent to payments, and there's no need to expedite that because the court knows that it will get paid within the time frame needed. So these are some legal resources for eviction assistance. If you want to take a screenshot of this screen here for the information. So there's the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley. They have an online intake form that you can submit, and they'll contact you back with that online intake form, or you can give them a call and speak to them over the phone. Project Sentinel is also providing assistance and access to justice. They provide mediation services and sometimes some legal services as well. But you can always email them or give them a call if you require some assistance with mediation. The Access to Justice is a court mediation program, but it doesn't require a pending lawsuit. So if you have issues outside of eviction, maybe you just have other issues going on between your landlord and you as the tenant, then you should definitely contact the Project Sentinel or Access to Justice for mediation services. And so there is a sample of a flyer on the next page, but the 3-step eviction prevention. So if a tenant receives a 3-day notice, make sure to let the tenant know the following. So if you receive a 3-day notice, do not move out. If you have already applied for rental assistance, as the tenant, provide your landlord a copy of the renter to landlord letter and a copy of the program participation letter. So if you have a state application, you can always log into your state application. And when you check the status, you can print a copy of your program participation letter from the state website. The letter shows the tenant applied for rental assistance. It provides an application ID number, and it provides the application status. So the landlord can see you have a submitted application, it's in progress with the state. If the tenant has not yet applied for rental assistance, do not move out, but make sure to complete an application for rental assistance as soon as possible. Eligible renters continue to have special eviction protections under state law from October 1st through the end of March 2022, and applying for rent relief may stop an eviction. So this is just a sample of the eviction prevention flyer. It basically talks about, the steps that we just went through, but also on the second page, there is a list of some free and low cost legal services. So the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley is on there, but also Community Legal Services of East Palo Alto, Bay Area Legal Aid, Asian Law Alliance, Santa Clara County Bar Association, Lawyer Referral Service, and the California Official and Free Legal Resources website. And then at the bottom, there's the Access to Justice Court Mediation Program and the Project Sentinel Court Mediation Program. So there's a lot of resources out there for legal assistance if you are getting to the point of potentially, being evicted. So where do I start? So if you prepare all necessary information, if you call the hotline, which I believe the phone number is coming up, when all the information and documents are gathered, and if you get help with the application in your own language, there is help in different languages available. I know the county has English, Spanish, and Vietnamese, but we also have other languages available to help, or interpreter services to help in another language. And if you're sick with COVID-19 or have been sick in the last 90 days and need assistance because you had to isolate and quarantine, call the COVID-19 resource hotline at 408-808-7770 or send an email to housing@eoc.sccgov.org. So the isolation and quarantine program and hotel placement for COVID positive individuals who cannot isolate at home is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 6. And hotel placement for unhoused people that are COVID positive is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, but also weekends and holidays, 8 to 6. And how do I start with the state program? So you can start your own application at the mentioned websites. You can call one of the local agencies helping with this process. If you start the application and decide you need help, you can save your work and ask for application assistance. The state application website has resources in English, Spanish, Korean, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Tagalog. You can also use Google Translate for other languages at the top right-hand corner of your screen. You can apply via your phone. And if you text 211-211, they will give you initial screening questions and will link you to the website, ask your language of preference, and connect you to Housing is Key. So just for your reference, this is the Housing is Key website. It's at www.housing.ca.gov. You can also Google Housing is Key, and that will take you to the Housing is Key website, and you would click Apply Now or in whatever your language is, and it would take you to the page to show you how to submit an application. So if you decide to start on your own, the program page, you'll find a renter's checklist. Check off new applicant box or continuing applicant, ask for address and zip code. You'll get an eligibility quiz. You can add a user if someone else is helping you, but make sure it's someone you trust because these names cannot be deleted. The process will ask how many months you have not paid and/or amounts paid. The application will ask about late fees. The application will ask about household members and income of household members, so make a list of members, birth dates, and income. If you have missed some information, the application will not let you proceed. Review the application before your final submission. We encourage landlords and tenants to inform and work with each other to complete the application. Emails regarding the application will come from Neighborly Software. So when you get emails from the state California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program, they'll come from the California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program via the Neighborly software. So that's why sometimes they might go into your junk folder. So this is just some information. If you need help, if you don't have a computer, you don't have internet access, you need help filling out the application, you need assistance in another language, there are local organizations that can help you apply for the California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program. And if you call 833-687-0967 or go to the Housing is Key website, you can find the local partner network. And these are some of the agencies, there's many agencies, but these are just some of the agencies that are helping with application assistance in Santa Clara County. So the County of Santa Clara does have some application assistance: Project Sentinel, International Rescue Committee, Catholic Charities of Santa Clara County, the San Francisco Housing Department, and the City of San Jose. So the City of San Jose currently has in-person application assistance at San Jose City Hall and the Franklin McKinley School District Office. Currently, because of the pandemic, they are offering assistance by appointment only. And so you can email them or call them and set up an appointment with them. This is application assistance with the State of California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program application. And the City of Mountain View is also offering virtual assistance. They have drop-in assistance on Thursdays from 1 to 5 p.m. And you can go to their website at mountainview.gov. You can also give them a call or send them an email if you'd like to set up an appointment or just get more information about their virtual drop-in assistance on Thursdays. And the County of Santa Clara has in-person application assistance in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese at the Vietnamese American Service Center on Center Road in San Jose. The assistance is currently Monday through Wednesday and Fridays from 9:30 to 3. And so it looks like we have a couple questions. So if you're struggling to make future rent, but application approval takes 6 to 8 weeks, how can we go about that? I don't want to get to the eviction stage. So usually what happens is you would submit your application. Let's say you're just going to request March. You notify your landlord, I submitted an application for rental assistance for the month of March 2022. Here's my program participation letter. This is my application number. I submitted it on this date. Basically, you would not pay your rent for March, and your landlord may give you some notices just for their own legal protection. And they would, the landlord would do their part of the application. The state would receive all the information, review the application. If something's missing, if they need more information, they'll let you know. And in the meantime, you're not going to pay March, but when April 1st rolls around, you're going to pay, at least for right now, the way the state program is, you would pay your April rent, but March would remain unpaid until the state of California completes their application. So you technically wouldn't get to the eviction stage because your landlord would have received your notification of your rental assistance application. And so they should know, legally speaking, that you are protected for the month of March. But, unless something changes, then April would still be due like normal, and you would pay that month. You would pay April when it's due. And so another question is, if does any kind of asset considered as income? So currently the state of California COVID-19 rent relief program does not consider any assets unless you're actively receiving income from something. Like if you turn in your tax return, if you turn in your 1040 tax form for 2020 or 2021, if you've already done your taxes, they just take your adjusted gross income from your form 1040. So whatever your income is that's reported on your taxes, and reflected on your adjustable gross income, then that is the income that the application will review. So your assets, if you have a car, if you have a house, if you have stocks, unless you're getting any income from those items, you don't have to worry about assets being counted on the state application. So this is a program that recently started through the Housing is Key website. It is California Mortgage Relief Program. The program is open to all eligible Californians who are currently experiencing pandemic-related hardships and have fallen behind on their housing payments. Eligible applicants must be at or below 100% of their county's area median income, own a single-family home, a condo, or permanently affixed manufactured home, and have faced a pandemic-related financial hardship after January 21st, 2020, and also meet at least one of the following qualifications. So if you're receiving public assistance, or you're severely housing burdened, or you have no alternative mortgage workout options through your mortgage servicer. So if you've already talked to your mortgage company and they've done everything they can do, then you would go to the California Mortgage Relief Program, and that's at camortgagerelief.org. And you would submit an application through the California Mortgage Relief Program. And so this is just a reminder here as we get to the end of our presentation. Apply to the California COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program as soon as possible if you need assistance with past due rent, or if you need assistance with future rent. If you receive a 3-day notice to pay rent or an eviction lawsuit, apply for rental assistance as soon as possible and contact the Law Foundation or Project Sentinel for any legal assistance that you might need. And just a reminder in general, share what is true and what you're asked for. You have rights. So definitely, go through the application with the State of California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program and answer the questions as truthfully as you can, submit the required documents, and also contact the Law Foundation or any other legal services to get more assistance if you're in need of eviction assistance. So we do have questions. So a landlord can put my information on rental history or credit history for not paying rent for time. My application is under consideration. Is this question out of your hand? So this is probably something that you might want to speak to the landlord about. So the State of California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program is, processing the applications for rent relief. They are taking potentially 6 to 8 weeks, maybe a little faster, maybe a little longer, just depending on the workload and the situation. But I don't believe they have any, how would you say, they haven't addressed any issues regarding rental history or payment history that could potentially be reported to the credit bureaus. So you should definitely speak to your landlord about that that situation. I mean, if you are concerned about that, because there is eviction protection, like legally you're protected from eviction, but that is definitely a good question to ask them regarding rental history and credit history, because that is important, for the future as well. And thank you so much for answering all the questions. Oh, you're very welcome. I hope some of this was helpful. I know a lot is unknown just in this with the state program and, just with this pandemic in general. So hopefully if more assistance is needed, the state is able to offer it, and, eviction protections are extended, as we need them. But we shall see, and we'll be here to help you as much as we can. So we'll wait a minute or so in case anybody has any additional questions, if you want to type them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll just wait like one more minute. Well, I don't see any more questions, but if if you do have any questions, you can always call the Isolation and Quarantine Support Hotline at 408-808-7770. That's 408-808-7770. And you can request more information about the Isolation and Quarantine Support Program, or you can request to be referred to the Emergency Rental Assistance Program if you have if you need assistance submitting an application to the State of California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program. And hopefully you got some helpful information today. And like I said, feel free to reach out to us to get any more questions answered. Thank you so much.